you haven't heard by this point what supposedly happened in the U.S. Capitol, that's Capitol, and around the U.S. Capitol, I'd be somewhat surprised. I'd almost question whether or not you were living under a rock, to be frank with you. I wasn't there, but I wanted to take a moment to set the record straight on a couple of things. Hello and welcome to the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Monday, the 15th of February of 2021. Thank you to everyone who's coming along today on Rumble, on YouTube, and on the podcast. Today, the subject of today's little video is January the 6th of 2021. I wanted to make a few things kind of plain as I see them. I know I wasn't there, so you're basically listening to somebody who is talking to you from a secondhand perspective to begin with. But here's the thing. I've said before, and I'm going to say again, it's my attitude that what should happen when you look at most things in your life is you should say, okay, I see what it looks like happened at the outset. Now let's wait a little while and let's figure out what actually really did occur. And that's why I've sort of chosen to back off a little bit and just wait and see what happens. Now, let's be fair. There are times when you can't do that. This, however, was not one of those times. And a bunch of people, besides rushing to judgment, also put themselves, in my opinion, in bad positions by doing certain of the things that they did. Not that I don't expect that by this point out of lots of people, but that's what happened. So, again, to begin with, how many people actually died mind you, not were killed, died in this entire event? How many people died? Well, the number of people appears to have been 5. Of those, 3 were definitely protesters, whatever you want to call them, rabble rousers, rioters, pick your name. Actually, I think 4 were. One who was definitely in the rioter class, in that she got into a building she wasn't supposed to be in and got shot as a result. Now, I'm not saying that that's the action that they should have taken with that individual. In my humble opinion, that's probably not what should have happened. I wasn't there, though, so I can't say what the folks who were dealing with that should have done with it, right? I can only tell you what it seems like is true to me. Does that mean that the people who were there at the time would not be able to present things that would make it so that my perspective on things was broken because I didn't know those things? No, it doesn't mean that at all. And what that means is that those people deserve the benefit of the doubt in doing what they did. Were they right? Were they wrong? Time will tell. Time, juries, investigations, whatever it happens to be, will tell. And so I'm not going to sit here and act all outraged and incensed. I am saddened at the loss of the individual who got shot. I'm saddened at that, at the young lady who got shot. I think it's unfortunate. I think it was unfortunate she chose the course of action she did. I think it was unfortunate what the response was. I'm not sure whether or not that response was warranted, and therefore I'm not going to cast judgment or aspersions on either side. On either side. The Capitol policeman who died, everything I hear says that that was not directly related to the event. Now, that doesn't mean it wasn't indirectly related to it. For example, he might have had some adverse reaction to pepper spray or some other irritant that was put in the air. I will say that the people who knew him at all seemed to be of a mind that he was fine after dealing with what he dealt with. I also believe it to be the case that he was a Trump supporter, which means that the chances are pretty good that the people around him, if they knew anything about him, would have known that that was the case. Now, granted, a lot of people around him wouldn't have known that that was the case. So maybe that really doesn't matter all that much. But the interesting thing about it is, it appears that everybody who died in any sense, and most of them it was medical conditions of one kind or another as far as anybody can tell, and that may include Officer Sicknick. I'm not sure about that to this point. Not saying it's true, not saying it's not. I'll put it in those terms. But the important thing for you to realize is everybody who died in the events in that time frame, first of all, only one person was, quote, killed, as far as anyone can tell. One of them supposedly died as a result of injuries. That would have been Officer Sicknick. I do not believe, from what I'm hearing now, that that's the case. That was the initial report, but it's not really what I would say if you were to ask me at the present moment, right? And all the rest of them died of some sort of condition otherwise. One shot, one supposedly accosted, assaulted, who it's said that he was not, and it's said that something else probably killed him. We don't know for sure. And 3 who died from some sort of ailment that they had, one assumes, or that that was exacerbated maybe by the situation at the very worst, from what I'm hearing. Okay, there may have been one who was, quote, trampled. Look, you get that at concerts. Okay, if you got a problem with what happened at the Capitol, then you have a problem with what happens at rock concerts. And let me tell you, I do. I'm not a great fan of that sort of gathering regardless. So when you hear me defending people in this, you need to know that my defense is from a position of somebody who doesn't like that kind of thing. Okay, so how much damage was done? I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, I would imagine that the amount of damage that was done, all told, was less than $10,000. It may have been less than 5. It's hard to say. Some things are more expensive than they really ought to be, and so that's another consideration. Now, let's talk about people who are talking about concern for their lives. I understand that you may think that other people are rabid dogs, but it turns out that most of the people that were at the Capitol on January 6th were not such people. That doesn't mean that there weren't bad folks there, okay? That doesn't mean that. And I'm here to tell you that one of the concerns in my mind is what parties were actually involved. The thing is, most of the people who would have supported Trump would have been right-leaning individuals, not right-wingers, not heavily right-leaning like you would think, but they would have been on the right. And they had problems with what happened in the election and so forth, and they felt that the counting of the ballots was an improper act, all things considered. I understand their position, and I agree that the election, it looks to me like there were issues with what happened there. We're not going to get into details on that. I'm just going to say that that's how it appears to me at this point in time. That having been said, I do not believe that for the most part the people involved had anything more in mind than protesting the fact that they believed that the, quote, election was stolen. Was it stolen? I don't think anybody knows the answer to that, to be frank with you. I really don't think that anybody knows. Do they have the right to be upset and feel like it was? Well, yeah, I would say that they do. That's the way things seem to me. So, okay, and so in terms of who was involved, my concern is that I'm pretty certain, just based on what I've heard, that there were some people involved who were involved from a left-leaning perspective, and they were not involved because they were supporting Donald Trump. They were involved because they thought that they could do some things one way or another, whether it was that they thought they were going to overtake the Capitol, or it was that they thought that they could make Trump supporters look bad. I don't know. I can't answer what all they were doing. But left-leaning individuals who were not there in support of what the majority of the individuals there were doing. I'm going to say the same thing that was said about many, many of the events that happened over the summer. And it is that the majority of the people there were not doing bad things. And I think probably that's true for a lot of what happened over the summer. But let me make something perfectly clear to you. If you were there and you did certain of the riotous things that occurred, and we're talking now about what happened in the Capitol and near the Capitol, right? And you were involved in things that you should not have done, and you see some sort of result, legal result as an outcome from that, guess what? I'm not trying to be mean, but kind of serves you right. If you rioted, if you did things wrong, if you broke things, if you messed things up, and they take you in, and now it has to be legitimate, just like it does to me for the other folks who were doing the BLM and Antifa stuff. It has to be legitimate. It can't be illegitimate. It has to be real, it has to be legitimate. But if it is, and you did wrong, you should expect to see bad outcomes as a result of that. That's just how that is. All right, I need to wrap things up because I'm at the end of my day. It's a freezing day today here in Little Rock. From my perspective, obviously other places in the country would look at this and say, yeah, that's just, that's normal winter weather for us. I get that. In any case, again, It is Monday, the 15th of February of 2021. Thank you for coming along on Rumble, the podcast, and on YouTube. Tomorrow will be obviously Tuesday, the 16th of February of 2021. I hope to get another Daily Summation out then, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video is recorded on Monday, the 15th of February, 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.